As you're doing your packages like SEO and that's what we're talking about today, but SEO and fractional CMO, like what are some of the most what are some of the most common things you're seeing going wrong? Because I know, it's hard when you do consulting to just have a cookie cutter, service like, yeah, I'll give you 10 hours a week and I'll do this or that. It's like every business needs something different. But like SEO wise, are there specific things that you're seeing just people keep dropping the ball on?
When it comes to SEO by itself, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a wide variety of things. I think it's not knowing how to utilize SEO. Like, I think not everyone understands that it's a um, it's a patience game, right? So,
Mhm.
like, you do some work, you wait a while, then you see some work done, then you do some more work and so forth. Now, obviously, there's other things like adding to it as well, but all that stuff kind of takes time. And so having like this strategy, knowing that you're in it for the long haul, right? It's not like running a campaign and then moving on to the next thing. An SEO needs to be constantly nurtured, constantly
Mhm.
have a strategy, and it's endless too. So I think that's probably a common thing, just not understanding the amount of effort that it takes, the consistency it takes, and then performance doesn't happen tomorrow, might not happen next month, might not happen after 3 months, but it's definitely you're looking at more of a longer term type of investment or a return in your investment, whether that's you're paying for someone to do it or you're putting in your own resources to do it. So I think that's probably the most common thing, whether you're a small little one-shop business or you're a corporation. So definitely, I think that's one consistent thing that every business kind of struggles with.
Are you working with e-commerce or B2B or both?
I do both. At some point, I want to niche down, right? I think that's what every business wants. And I think a lot of businesses start correctly and niche down right off the bat. But I kind of struggle with that because I have a really strong like healthcare marketing background.
Mhm.
Um, but healthcare is not doing so well when it comes to marketing right now. It's just with the economy, they take a lot of hit. I know I have a lot of contacts, and I mean, marketing is like the first thing that they kind of let go of. So it's not the perfect time.
Mhm.
But e-commerce is always there's always e-commerce is always doing something because it's so always it's so virtual, right? Or there's so many options for e-commerce, and so I do have a clientele with e-commerce, and I really enjoy it too
Mhm.
because it's overall like big picture wise, SEO is the strategies are similar, but the challenges for e-commerce are all over the place.
Mhm.
And a lot of it too, it's kind of like with e-commerce, there's just a lot of opportunities for SEO because it's so like paid advertising heavy
Mhm.
when it comes to marketing, that the SEO gets overlooked. And whenever I do either a consulting job or take on a new client or do an audit for an e-commerce business, I'm just like, dang, you guys are missing the essentials. And that's I find that almost, I don't know, 95% of the time with e-commerce businesses.
Well, and let's drill in on that a little bit because, that's a question I have for you is, when you're looking at SEO for e-commerce, are you worried about product page and descriptions on that? Or is, SEO just their blog content? Or, how does that play in?
It's all of that, right? So like it's all kind of the same kind of traditionally you do with any type of website.
Mhm.
The trick is like with other businesses, like you can really on a page you can really expand on the content, right? You can write
Mhm.
for 2,000 words on like I don't know a personal injury lawyer page,
Mhm.
right? You don't want to do that when you're trying to sell like, I don't know, a pink dress or something like
Yeah.
that. So the content's smaller. So you have to do what you can with it. You want to extend it where you can, but you also don't want to have too much description when it takes away, it's too much noise and it takes away from either the visual or, someone to actually make a conversion. So there is a balance there. So you have to learn to be like really, really efficient. And the other challenge I see with e-commerce, and this is super common, is like, okay, I have like all these different products with all these different SKUs. I have all these different pages. there's a lot of copy and pasting going on, and that's just duplicate content. And that's just like SEO 101 no right there.
Mm.
So that's easy. Like one of the first things I find almost every single website or e-commerce website that I look at is like, great, you're just duplicating the content, either same description, same metadata, and so forth. So there's just a lot of those basics that need to happen with an e-commerce site. And sorry to rant, but there's one other thing too, which is probably different from a lot of other businesses, is like the structure of an e-commerce site, because you could sell so many products, especially if you're doing like something like retail or something like that, where you have different colors, different sizes, different whatever. You have all these different categories. It can really get messy, and SEO likes to scan, or I'm sorry, Google likes to scan sites in a nice organized fashion, right? So when it gets messy like that, that's really, really harmful for SEO. And that's another thing that I always find is like, okay, not only are your visitors having a hard time navigating through your site, but you're making this hard for Google. Google's going to flag this as, this is not very user friendly, and it's definitely going to affect your ranking. So, just a combination of all those things are typically, like, I would say, the most, I don't know, common things that I see when I'm looking at an e-commerce site.
And when you say duplicating, I interpret that as, dress one, pink variation, green variation, yellow variation, each has their own page versus one page where you can just click through the colors. Is that the type of duplicating they're doing, like the same product on different pages?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it all depends, like what kind of back end that you have. Like sometimes, I think some pages will have different, even for different color, they'll have slightly different, completely different pages for those. And it doesn't make it with different pages, you have different content. And then if you're using the same content of those, that's how you get in that duplicate SEO or duplicate content problem for SEO.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And look, if at any point I ask you a dumb question, that's because you're the expert here with SEO. But what I would ask is, with e-commerce in specific, is there a key focus on SEO rankings for, like, brand words and things specific to their business, or are they more focused on, product focus, or is it like the lifestyle to complementary to the product, or just kind of at all?
I think it's all the above right there. So like branding is usually something you want to start with, was like having when someone thinks of your brand name, you want to be able to see. And so there is an SEO strategy for that. But also for the things that you sell, and we call that like more like your high intent keywords. So and you also got to think of the balance of, like, is there enough volume, and how competitive are those high intent keywords? And that's kind of the tricky thing. So the best way I try to explain like what you're looking for is, like, let's say you're selling shoes. Shoes obviously is, I mean, I don't know how many shoes, every person on the planet wears shoes, right? So there's a lot of shoes going on. So I would say that's a very competitive keyword. So what are you actually selling? Are you selling red shoes? Great. Now you just made a little bit longer tailed keyword. We just took out all the other colors of the rainbow. Now we're just focusing on red shoes. But maybe that's too competitive as well. So maybe you're selling red athletic shoes. Okay, now we're starting to get it down. Now we're starting to get somewhere, right? Maybe red athletic shoes for youth or kids only. Now you're getting another segment down. So that's how you kind of find your niche when you're trying to sell something, to at least have an opportunity to rank online if you're in a competitive market for e-commerce. So those long-tailed keywords. And the other part too is, to the second part of your question was, the low intent keywords are still important as far as getting people to your site and exploring your site, or maybe finding your site. So instead of, finding high intent keywords, you're using your low intent keywords in your blogging. And blogging is usually another thing that's missed a lot with e-commerce sites.
Yeah, and that the shoe example you just had actually made me think. I recently bought 2 pair of leather sneakers. They were like actually nice leather sneakers, made from good material. And I was in New York for a conference. No, I'm sorry, I was in DC for a conference, and it was raining. and I wasn't sure if I could wear them out in the rain. I didn't know if it would swell up or what. So I went to the website that I purchased them from, was looking for like quality and care in their footer to see if I could look for a blog. I didn't find any content. Ended up going to Google and, searching that question, trying to find a shoe manufacturer or a shoe company that had that information. Ended up finding it. But, from that, I was thinking, looking on Google and, finding questions commonly asked would also be a good one for e-commerce companies.
Yeah, I mean FAQs are SEO gold, I think, because that's typically how people search, right? Is like, how do you do this, or um, um, what does this mean, or whatever. So that's another common thing to always have on your site. I think for FAQs, you can have like an FAQ page, or you can have, even better is like if you have, I don't know, 2 or 3 most common FAQs on a specific category or an actual page. At the bottom, obviously, you don't want to interfere. You don't want to add more noise because the number one thing you're trying to do is sell a product when it comes to e-commerce. So you don't want to add too much noise, but it does add some SEO value there. And it's just from the example that you gave. That's perfect.
Yeah. And, on the paid ad side, Facebook, Meta is evolving every single day. I mean, we just got news recently that in 2024, they're going to make all shops only have checkout on the shops. They're trying to move people away from the websites. A few years ago, we had iOS, and media buying strategies keep changing. SEO, I'm sure, adapts and evolves, right? It's continually growing. And, there's more focus on the social side of video content and just how we're putting things out. Have you seen any trends changing with SEO? And, do you foresee any trend changes in terms of like how you're creating or packaging your content?
Yeah, I could always see that. Like one of the things that I'm not a specialist at, but I'm kind of learning to be, is like how to optimize better on when you're selling products on Amazon.
Mhm.
Most of my customers, they come to me because they're like, I'm making 80% of my sales on Amazon, and like only 20% are on my website. And as much as I love selling products, I want to sell
I
through
like
my
margins.
website because I get
Yeah.
a get better margin, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I focus in on, but I am doing some tweaking there because it is like it's also a total revenue game there. So there's, maybe, I don't know if you call it actual SEO when you're actually optimizing Amazon, but it's still optimization. It's still just very similar practices that you're doing on a website. And you
Mhm.
can take those same type of fundamentals and apply them on any platform that you're using. So if we're getting away from Amazon, or if Shopify comes up with their own type of platform, which I think they will at some point, it's still the kind of the same thing, right? Where you can optimize. You're optimizing. Maybe it's not called SEO in a traditional sense for your website, but you're optimizing it for something else.
Hear me out on this one, because you said Shopify may be coming out with new platforms. So I'm curious to understand what you mean by that. But I was thinking, and I might have been in just the clouds a little too much with this, but I was talking with somebody who specializes in influencer engagement, and I was drawing that conversation together with the update Meta put out that, ideally they want shopping to happen on their platform, like 100%, right? Which would eliminate the opportunity for the website. Um, could it ever be possible that influencer posts on social media, organic, could help in discoverability of a store on Facebook or Instagram, like it's SEO? Because this person who was in influencer management was relating, looking at influencers the same way you look at SEO in terms of long-term building of brand awareness that way. Could you ever see that being possible, or am I just in the clouds a little too much with that?
No, I think that's totally possible, and especially if like trends start to lean more in that way, as far as things that can possibly move the needle.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe when I look at SEO, like I always look at, maybe I kind of explore the browns, because I'm more of a full stack marketer. Like I
Mhm.
know a little bit of everything, and SEO is probably the thing I know the most. So it is the thing I know the most, but I know a little bit of everything. So I like to apply SEO, but I also try to like, push the boundaries of what SEO does and see how it can mold into different things, right? So like on my LinkedIn, I try to apply demand generation, which covers a lot of things with SEO because it's a big thing, but I know tons of people in demand generation, they look at SEO as like, okay, it's one box of like 20 other things that I'm trying to do for demand gen. And it's so overlooked because it's still, if you do SEO right, it's still like a majority of your traffic comes from organic search. Almost always, especially if you have like a website that's you're adding content to, right? So
Mhm.
it shouldn't be overlooked. So yeah, I see it as applying to just about anything. And it's always adaptable in my opinion.
And what's the platform you think might happen with Shopify?
I just heard things through the grapevine, and I don't want to put a foot in my mouth in case I'm completely
Yeah.
wrong, but I just know that like just the way like how Amazon's being used and how much money that they're making and so forth, it really makes sense for Shopify to come up with their own type of selling platform because they have the
Mm,
users now, right?
mm.
And a lot of the users that have Shopify are also selling on Amazon, right? No duh. So it really makes sense for Shopify if they have the users, they have the brand awareness to actually start selling products in a traditional sense, like Amazon is, or any other type of e-commerce type of site, corporate site. So that's the way I see it happening. I could be totally wrong, but I've also heard some things in the grapevine that's a possibility that might happen in
In
the future.
in the word. Yeah, and, I've seen something, I can't remember what it was, but I've seen something that helps Shopify stores discoverability because they're putting, like, similar products or collections together. I can't remember what that's on or where I saw that at. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. And, I was talking about Facebook as wanting to be within platform. They've tried shops campaigns with that in the past. It didn't work out the best to start. It was a hit or miss.
Mhm.
We'll see how it goes. I think, there's going to be some limitations with it unless they go full force with it. My media buyer was talking about, or the lead media buyer on our team was talking about, like, how does that affect post-purchase upsells or, bundles or
Mm,
customized products, right? Like, how do you do all of that on a Facebook shop, right? I see Google running commercials just all the time about the comfortability and like the safety of shopping on Google because they're wanting to move with um, Project. I'm going to mispronounce it. Project Magi
mm.
towards having it on. Um, as they're doing that and they're looking at doing like conversational search, you know, is there anything that brands are going to need to keep top of mind to be found properly through SEO?
Uh, I don't know. I would
It's
just
really
say,
fluid.
yeah, it's something new. Yeah, I mean, I don't see like a big change in a traditional sense of the foundation of what you do for SEO, like the
Mhm.
essentials. I don't see that bit of change because things always, there's always like new curveballs, right? Like AI is a big curveball for SEO. I would be more concerned with like what AI is going to be doing or what brands need to do to adjust through this new volume of content as we come through AI. But at the same time, you know, Google changes their their SERP like constantly, right? Because they're always adapting, and
Mhm.
and they have a lot of smart people over there. So I think they'll just adapt, and with that, people that do SEO need to adapt and so forth. But throughout my career, and I've been doing SEO since I don't know, probably like I've been doing marketing for 15 years, so I guess I've been doing SEO for that long as well. Um, uh, the essentials have always been mostly the same, and I think if you're doing that minus some tweaks here and there, you're going to be mostly okay.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I think um, there's going to be a lot of unknowns that come through AI, and a lot of. I put up a poll on LinkedIn recently asking people if they trusted the information that they gained from ChatGPT, and surprisingly, maybe because I'm biased because I like it, but surprisingly, the majority was either on the fence or unsure of the information that they're getting from ChatGPT. Have you looked at integrating that in at all within your agency or within your work?
Yeah, I do, and I also use some other tools for generating blog posts and generating content that are kind of I guess they go off of ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
yeah, it all depends. Like one thing, like what I learned just recently from a guy named Paul Slack, who's been on my show on the Brains and Brews Marketing Podcast. He was on my show a couple episodes back, but he was saying that like Chat GPT, like what you're reading there is already a couple years old, right?
Mhm.
So like if you're asking for something very like right now, which I think a lot of us when we're searching, that's the case. You're also getting stuff that's could be like 2 years old. I think it was up through 2021 or something like
21,
that.
yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Now I think Chat GPT 4 is more up to date. I think that's could be correct. I could be wrong there, but anyway, yeah. I mean, but who cares? AI is going to get smarter. It's going to get more accurate. At some point, the personality is going to be just like it's going to be very humanized the way I see it, and yeah, we just got to adapt to it, and there'll be other difference makers on how we either consume content or how we find things on the internet. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity with AI is usability, I think. Like, when it becomes super accessible for anybody to use quickly and easily, and I think when they can call out hallucinations or, when it's just creating information that's not real, just filling it is what they call hallucinations, I think
Mm,
it'll be a lot better. Same kind of like with crypto, like you couldn't expect your grandparents to move one coin from one chain to another and do a transfer that way. I think when AI gets past this, having to run it on your like your actual system or having to like come up with the prompts so much that it'll be a little bit more accepted. I'm excited to see where it goes. Um, as long as there's consistency with it, consistency with the performance from it.
yeah, it's kind of I mean, AI is kind of a lazy marketer's dream right now because like it allows you to create so much stuff and it's still kind of early enough where it'll, you know, just creating stuff will still have some sort of impact,
Yeah.
right? But that's a time bomb, or that's the time's going to eventually run out on that. So, adding some sort of level of creativity, or maybe again, we'll see what the actual users and consumers do, right? Because
Yeah.
if they start ignoring content completely, then we'll focus on something else, right? And it's stuff always changes like that.
Yeah, I'm working on a project, AI project right now. I really think the biggest opportunity for it right now is eliminating busy work like research and report building and things that are just repetitive or could be done by AI. And then also looking at data analytics. I think a problem with, I don't know, this is just from my experience, but companies want more and more and more data. And as they grow, they get more data, but they also get a higher head count. And that data then gets fragmented and doesn't get pieced together to make comprehensive decisions. And they want to move hyper fast, but they can't properly with the data that they have. AI could bring all of that together, centralize the data, make sense of it, and then give that output information so that it can have, actionable insights with it. So that's where I think it will go in the short term, but who knows? I'm no developer at all. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll go that way too, but also I think it can go in just about anything, any direction. Like I like to think that us humans we always have that creative upside, but I'm not even sure about that anymore because I've seen like one of my web developers, he's been using this AI tool for images. I mean, he just
Mid
types in.
journey.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I'm just like, okay, man, like, can you give me uh, I don't know, a scientist in a lab, this age, race, color, see what you come up with. And hot dang, man, like it's like right on the mark. And I'm like, wow, that that takes away so much time looking for that, like, through stock images. So I don't know. I think with AI anything is possible. It's just us to us humans or us as marketers to try to think of other ways to stay ahead of it. But again, it all comes down to what the consumers and the users want
Mhm.
and how they change. So
Perfect. And look, we cap off every episode with 3 rapid fire questions. I did not send them to you ahead of time, so apologies for
great.
that. I try not to. Let's keep it on the hot seat.
Oh, good.
Uh, if you had to summarize everything we discussed today into a marketing mindset, what mindset should marketers and business owners have when it comes to SEO?
I think the mindset is like always be humble. this is not a really good business. I don't think any marketing practice is, but if you start to really think like you know it all, I mean, good luck with that, because I've been doing SEO for 15 years, and I've never ever had figure out. I've never had any marketing completely figured out or figured out at all. Everything was always different. So you need to be humble. You need to be knowing that your strategy on how you do SEO is not going to work for every single business and not every single circumstance. So, and things are also always changing. So you need to always be learning.
And speaking of learning, for anyone listening that's in the stage of figuring out what they'd like to do in the marketing industry, what roles would you say have the highest demand or opportunity in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think agencies always kind of like do well because it's I've worked in both agencies and then on the client side, right? And one thing I know is like when you're working for a corporate business, you know, there's all these other people that want a corporation that they got to take care of, and then paying employees is very expensive. So it's a great alternative to hire a vendor, an agency, even a consultant or something like that, to or freelancer to help with your continue to do your marketing, because no business wants to slow down no matter what the economy is like. But I think like agencies, it's a great way to start for learning, and it's also I always think there's going to be great opportunities no matter if the economy is up or down.
And tell us, where can listeners connect with you and learn about you or your agency?
Great question. So two places. I'm the host of the Brands and Brews Marketing Podcast, where we talk about marketing while drinking beer. You've been on the show. You didn't drink beer,
I
but
did not.
you have a great story,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorite episodes. I think it's one of my top 2 or 3 listened episodes, by the way. Which so Colby, you have a fan base. And Spearpoint Marketing. So it's thespearpoint.com is where you can find my agency. In fact, I have a e-commerce page there, and I do free audits for e-commerce businesses. So free SEO audits. So any listeners that are want a free SEO audit, go to the spearpoint.com, go to my e-commerce page, and fill out the form, get a free audit.
Perfect. Jesse, great having you on the show today.
Thanks, Colby. Loved it.